the road safety campaigning, we've got another speaker here, Dr. Rachel ALDRED. I'll just introduce Dr. Rachel ALDRED. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joanne, and thank you very much for having me here. So I'm here with a couple of hats on, I guess. I'm a trustee of the London Cycling Campaign, which fully supports this campaign, and I'm also a researcher that focuses particularly on sustainable transport and on safety, particularly around vulnerable road user safety. I would say that bus drivers, bus users, people who cycle and walk, all need a fully sustainable transport system. And I'm not talking primarily here about the environment. I'm talking about the fact that we need to ensure that Londoners, particularly those on low incomes, particularly those without car access, can get about, can get to the places they need to get to safely, comfortably and affordably by walking, cycling and by public transport. And I think it's brilliant to see people here coming here today around the fact that people walking, people cycling, people using public transport and drivers have so much in common. You know, we share the vision for prioritising walking, cycling and public transport in this city. And I think it's bad for all of us when professional drivers are treated badly. This is an important part of the picture. A lot of research has focused on infrastructure, the need to improve infrastructure for walking and cycling, and we still have a long way to go here. Similarly on vehicle design, for instance around HGV design, improving vehicle design so that blind spots are reduced. But increasingly I think that the way that professional drivers are treated needs to be discussed much more as part of the safety picture by researchers. In London, increasingly, we have less kilometres driven by private cars and more driven by commercial drivers. Now, all things being equal, there should be a safety dividend from this. Professional drivers should be better at driving than amateur drivers. You know, please don't put me behind the wheel of a bus. You know, the chaos will result. Professional drivers clearly should lead to safer driving in London. So why is this not happening? Why, for instance, do LGVs, vans, result in similar numbers of serious injuries per kilometre driven as HGVs, despite the fact that HGVs are clearly much more dangerous vehicles? Well, I think part of the story is to do with the way that van deliveries are organised, the way that van drivers are treated. I think we don't do enough to look at this as researchers, but I don't know if people saw the BBC investigation into Amazon a few months back and the conditions that van drivers for Amazon have to put up with, which was completely shocking. And the fact that people are treated like this on our roads, driving around on our roads all day, and the way that bus drivers are treated, it's clearly not good for anyone. It's clearly having a negative impact on people walking and cycling, on bus users and bus drivers. The push for faster buses at the expense of safety was very effectively identified by the GLA report. Driving is an inherently hazardous activity, I think, and needs to be recognised as such. Increasingly, public health researchers are finding out about the impact on health of what's called sedentary behaviour. So, for instance, you know, sitting down behind a computer, sitting down behind a wheel. Sedentary behaviour is hazardous for health in itself. And the fact that people are driving for long hours without breaks, without being able to get up and walk around for a few minutes, should be seen as a major public health issue. This is damaging your health. Driving in hostile conditions, very stressful, again, impacts on health. One of the pioneering public health studies from the 1950s by a guy named Jerry Morris compared the health of bus drivers and bus conductors. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the study, but it was really interesting. It was kind of a classic epidemiological study, and it found that bus drivers' health was much worse than bus conductors because of the sedentary behaviour, because of the stress, and yet we've done very little to improve conditions. As the least we can do for bus drivers is to mitigate the impacts of this work as best that we can. And reading the 10 points, you know, this is actually the bare minimum. It's shocking to me to see that we still have to campaign for this in the 21st century in London. We need to be thinking about how, you know, we can mitigate the impacts of this sedentary behaviour, of the stress, because you deserve a lot better than this. Londoners deserve a lot better than this. Just speaking personally as a cyclist and as a pedestrian, you know, I do not want somebody to be driving a large vehicle around me who is feeling tired, who is overworked, who's desperate for the loo, who's sick, who's stressed out, who's trying to meet impossible targets. You know, this is not sensible. And I think, you know, I think most Londoners would actually agree that the 10-point charter is basically the minimum. So to conclude, I know that the London Cycling Campaign fully support your campaign, and personally, as someone who researches safety, I think it's really important in this respect too. You know, infrastructure is important, vehicle design is important, and the way that professional and commercial drivers are treated is really important as well. And your campaign is standing up for bus drivers, which is absolutely right, but also it's a moral stand, I believe, for the safety of the most vulnerable on our roads. So thank you for that.